Welcome to Implausible Nature, your home for all things Black Templars. On today's video, we've got a 2,000 point list for you, the first of hopefully many 2,000 point videos for you as the meta evolves and changes, and just different styles of lists. We want to bring you all kinds of different lists that you can play that will hopefully you'll find a few that fit your play style and that you really like. So to kick it off today, I've got a list that I created after speaking with Tom in our latest interview, which you can see here. Um, so I kind of took a little bit of some of the things that he said in that interview and applied them to a new list that I wanted to create, utilizing some more Melta than I had been previously, and some Vanguard veterans as well. So let's take a look here. So obviously, the core of this list is going to be, you know, pretty much the core of most of our lists, right? I've got two Redemptor Dreadnoughts kitted out in the usual fashion. I've got two Land Speeders. Those are going to be pretty standard land speeders or bikes in most of our lists because they're cheap and fast melta platforms. So yeah, so I've got two land speeders with multi meltas in there. Um, and so around that core of those units that we're going to see, I'm running a battalion here because CP is very precious and we can spend a lot of it very fast, even pre-game, especially with all the things that we can do. That's really cool. So I wanted to make sure that I have enough CP to do the things I want to. Plus, we have one of the best troop choices in all the land as far as Space Marines are concerned in our Crusader squad. So I've got two 10-man Crusader squads in this list here, backed up by a squad of infiltrators with the Helix Gauntlet and the Light of the Emperor's Grace. So I had 10 points at the end of this list. So I gave them the light because it could come in handy. It may not. Either way, it was either that or if you wanted to, you could put it on the chaplain for like a power fist or something. But honestly, I think that's probably the best use of it. Unfortunately, I didn't have the points to give power fist to the Crusader squad guys. Um, so I wanted to do that, but there just wasn't points in this list for it. So for our HQs, I've got our chaplain. This is going to be a jump pack chaplain. I made him the warlord, give him rights of war, and he's got the ancient breviary with the canticle of hate. So I went with the canticle of hate because specifically it does a couple things. One, it's going to help those Vanguard veterans get that charge off whenever they need to. Right? They're very fast already, but I want to make sure that they're going to get that charge off. It also allows me to, if I am going to use devout push in the middle of a combat, maybe to pile in some extra guys. I want to make sure that I get that extra consolidate range on the consolidate and the pile in, right? So then, of course, Grimaldus, he's another staple of our lists. I give him Litany of Divine Protection and Psalm of the Remorseless Persecution, both of which I will probably be putting on the Vanguard vets for the turn that they jump out and go to attack something to give them extra durability and extra deadliness, right? And then rounding out our HQs is going to be High Marshal Helbrecht. He is a beast with all those chain swords from those two Crusader squads. He is going to buff them up, giving them rerolls of 1 to hit, which is awesome, and then also giving them +1 strength. So getting them to that important breakpoint for strength 5. So moving on, like I said, we've gone over the troops already. The elites, we've already talked about the Redemptors. We're going to see those. Those are standard for pretty much all of our lists. You're going to see 2 or 3 Redemptors. They're just so good, even with the points increase. And then our Vanguard Veteran Squad. And again, we talked about this in one of our previous list videos, that we're running them all Lightning Claw Storm Shield now. not as many Thunderhammers or any Thunderhammers as we used to, simply because we're able to maximize Remorseless Persecution this way, and make sure that we're, even as the squad gets whittled down, we're able to deal those mortal wounds at max 6 a go, right? And then for the sergeant, I gave him 2 lightning claws, and I used revered repositories to give him the skull of Kegodominus, right? I also gave him Champion of the Feast. And then I added Bones of Mordred onto him. So he's rocking it all, right? As Casey would say, he's full Gucci, right? So I gave him the extra Lightning Claw instead of the Storm Shield, one, to save a couple of points, so I could buy that Light of Emperor's Grace, but also because he's going to be the last guy standing anyway, right? If he's the last guy standing, he's probably not going to live long, even with a 4+ save, right? So, and I'm almost certainly going to run Uphold the Honor in this against virtually all opponents. So he's still going to have an invulnerable save. It just won't be as good. But instead, what he gets is an extra attack from that extra Lightning Claw. So on the charge, he's rocking 7 attacks, hitting on 2s, and re-rolling all those wounds. So plus being a fast unit, that Skull of Keiko Dominus is going to really help with any psyker shenanigans that my opponent might try to deploy. And we talked about the land speeders. Again, I'm pretty much running either 2 land speeders or 2 attack bikes in almost every one of my lists, just because fast moving Melta is still good and they're super cheap for what they do. And then rounding it out is going to be an Eradicator squad with heavy Melta rifles. Now I'm running 5 Eradicators here, and I uh, typically in the past I have never really run more than 3. So I wanted to go with 5 here because one, with things like uh, the high wound count models that are out there now, Tau, for example, you've got their big suits all have multiple wounds. Crusher Stampede, right? Thick City, even Custodes, all have high wound counts, and being able to punch, even if those units end up with an invulnerable save from one thing or another, every failed save is going to be much more likely to be a dead model, right? Um, and I went with the heavy melter rifles. Yes, they're going to be moving. I'm probably always going to be hitting on a 4+ unless I pop the stratagem to count as stationary, which costs 2 CP, so that is an option for me. But I've got Helbricht in here, and so I'm probably going to give his Chapter Master rerolls to this squad so they have a 75% chance to hit even while moving. The reason I like the heavy melter rifles is because it's going to be a minimum of 2 damage, or 3 damage, excuse me. So their output is going to be much better. They're going to have 10 shots most of the time at full strength. And it's just another big threat unit for my opponent to worry about, right? So I've got 2 Redemptors, the Vanguard Vets, a squad of Eradicators, all are big threats to my opponent's army. And if they're focusing on them, then they're not worrying about my Crusader squads, and or vice versa, right? So I've got these 2 Crusader squads. If they hit someone intact, that is a lot of attacks. As Tom said, you can utilize Gene Wrought Might to get auto wounds in there and get rerolls to hit from either one of the chaplains through Litany of Hate, or perhaps Helbricht that turn, and really just punch through a ton of wounds, right? So that is the list. That is sort of my why behind what I took. So I'm going to turn it over to Bob and let him give his thoughts on this list, and any pitfalls I may have run into.
All right. Yeah. So this is actually is a pretty good, well-rounded list for what we're currently seeing in the meta. So obviously, there's the big elephant in the room, Tau out there. You know, everyone's kind of scared of them. They remind everyone of the Drukhari of 2021, right? Dark lances, and well, these guys have mobility. They have out of line of sight shooting. They have high AP shooting. They ignore involves. There's a lot of scary stuff in the Tau. So what you want to kind of do in some of your lists is you want to bring more bodies, because that's something that is one of the weaknesses of the Tau is they excel at killing elite things very well. They are very good at killing isolated small units like MSU units, and they can kill vehicles very well. So what they don't deal with is clumps of large ones. So Crusader squads are going to be very good against them. It'll take them a little bit longer to get through, while they're still going to have those 5+ invul with the uphold, and you could keep them around a little bit longer if you can get them up the board into the middle of the board. Kind of keep your opponent pinned a little bit towards their side. There's nothing saying that you can't max out your primaries second and third turn, maybe getting in at least the 8 points on turn 4 and hope for the best on turn 5. You might have a winnable match there. One of the key things with this list is you got the infiltrators there that are very durable, that can move up the board if you need to get an early objective. They have the Helix Gauntlet to protect them. We know how great and durable they can be. You can utilize your transhuman on them if you need to, depending on what's shooting at them. Overall, they're going to be a great way to screen or even hold the back objective if you need to and you don't need to really advance up. One thing that's great about them is because of the Light of Emperor's Grace, you can get them up there against Zerker heavy lists if you need to, or even just be a really annoying potential first turn charge. You know, that's not out of the realm. Uh, as for the rest of the list, yeah, it's going to be kind of pretty standard mill the foot based aura party. So you got the chaplain, Grimaldus, and Helbert kind of buffing the Crusader squads and the Redemptors all at the same time, as well as the Eradicators. You know, kind of go right up the center of the board, do as much as you damage as you can on the way, and then charge, get in there. You do have some advanced units on in the list, which is great. You know, you get a little bit faster units of Vanguard veterans. Those things are dangerous, no matter who you're facing. They'll be able to take out no matter what. With if you're in range of Grimaldus and you can get the Psalm of Remorseless Persecution on them, they're going to kill whatever you charge. They can almost take down an Imperial Knight on the charge at full strength. With that, plus you got the Gene Rot Might, and that's not even including the Gene Rot Might. So you might actually, I haven't worked out the math on that. If you add that on there, you probably could even do it. So they're nasty. Plus you got the skull on him, so he is a sergeant to be fearful of. So they're going to draw a lot of attention. So that's going to be just something you're going to have to be aware of. But that's why they're 10-man units instead of the 5-man units that we've seen in some of those higher placing lists recently for the Black Templars with the Thunderhammers. You really need that 10-man, and I honestly probably wouldn't even combat squad them, especially for facing a list like the Tau or the Elderai.
Yeah.
Now, there's also another big army out there that's kind of dangerous. So no one's really been kind of talking about it, but the Custodes out there are pretty hard to kill. That's the other army that really gives Tau kind of a big fit because they're just as fast, and the units that they have are much more tough than the Tau can put down in one shot. So they're kind of giving the Tau a little bit of trouble. But we have the tools with our units to be able to put enough damage on some of those units with things like the Vanguard veterans or the Eradicator squads, which you're as Alex mentioned, you're going to be using Helbert to buff those guys.
Yeah.
Uh, and remember, you can move them, get them in position, getting those rerolls, and you can potentially do up to 8 damage with the heavy melter rifle rather than the D6 with the assault. We get a lot of questions about why aren't you taking the assault rifle and just advancing them? Well, one thing that a lot of people are forgetting about total obliteration is you cannot use it if you advanced. So you're going
Yep.
to be losing that if you do our Emperor's Will stratagem with them, which would, honestly be a great use of that. but you're not going to be able to get the total obliteration out of the deal there. So overall, I think the list is pretty good. It's going to hold the center really well. You have that screening unit with the infiltrators that you can either guard your back or the front lines, depending on what you're facing. Gene Steer Colts are one of those units you kind of want to screen the front, but you also want to make sure that you got the backside of your army kind of uh, filled out there. And you have your land speeders that can get around the board, get into corners if you need to. So those are going to be kind of things. Secondary objectives that I would kind of touch on this one. Obviously, you're going to be wanting to do some moments on this. This is
Yep.
basically custom made for this
Yep.
list. Stranglehold is going to be a good one on that one. Most of the lists that we are going to be building nowadays, Stranglehold is a good one. It kind of seems a little win more, but when you want to hold the 2 or 3 objectives that are closest to you and you live and die by holding those, or you're going to lose the game, why not get points for it as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of read my thoughts on the secondaries there. Oath is definitely and probably Stranglehold. Depending on what the board looks like, what the opponent looks like, engage would also be an option for that, and that's where the land speeders are a little bit better than attack bikes because they can capture that quarter by themselves. If I need to, but I would probably lean towards Stranglehold more often than Engage, simply because it's just harder to do now for Engage. Um, and while land speeders can hold that corner, they are still pretty fragile to do so, right? So you'd want to, if you're going to use them for that, you'd want to have them out of line of sight, which sort of defeats the purpose of them, right? You want that Melta up in your opponent's face, blasting stuff. So yeah, and back to your point about the total obliteration for the eradicators. If you are advancing them because you're out of range or out of line of sight of anything to shoot, you're pretty much in desperation mode anyway. I mean, firing 3 shots, or I guess in this case 5 shots, is is okay, but it's not great. You want to, I would honestly, because I'm taking the heavy, if I do need to advance them, I will, because maybe there's no targets or no targets in range. I'd rather advance them, not have anything to shoot, and the next turn be in range of whatever I want to kill, even if it means moving again, right, and taking that -1. And like I said, we've got the strat to stand still essentially. It's 2 CP. Um, if we need it, if you just really need to make sure that your shots go through, right? Maybe Helbrecht is out of range or something has occurred and you want to make sure those shots go through, you can do that. Um, but yeah, so to your point about the Vanguard vets, definitely plan is to keep them together. I don't think combat squatting them is really worthwhile. This squad is built to run together. The reason there's 10 guys is because I know I'm going to take losses on the way in, right? Unless I can manage to get them out of line of sight, which is possible, or, I don't have first turn and my opponent's really aggressive and I'm countercharging with them. Um, which is also possible. They're probably not going in at full strength, right? They're going to take some hits. A 5-man Van Vet squad is really more of a countercharge unit, something you hold back until your opponent comes to you and they're in range to get charged. The 10-man is a go out and kill unit, and that's what this unit is built to do. So yeah. So that's the list. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to leave them down in the comments. If you take this list and play it and run it, tell us how it did. Did you like it? What things did you like about it? What things don't you like about it? That's all we have for you today. Come and check out our Discord. We have a really awesome active community there. We also have a Patreon if you guys want to support us. We really appreciate all the support that our patrons give us. You get extra things like special roles in our Discord, early access to videos, stuff like that. But none of our content is paywalled. Everything is always available to everyone. We just appreciate your support if you want to give it. So until next time, keep on crusading.